Story of Othello in 10 seconds, okay?
Okay.
Go.
So, interracial couple, white rich girl, black general of the army.
Done.
No!
It's 10 seconds story about Othello, really. It's 10 seconds about Othello, but I don't know the story.
Two best friends, Othello and Iago. Iago gets jealous of his best friend Iago and he decides to really fuck him up good and proper.
For me, Othello, it's full of politics. How when politics comes, destroy everything.
Time is up.
Othello بالنسبة لي هي شوفك بكرة.
I need you to summarize Othello in 10 seconds, please. 1, 2, 3, go.
Othello, a play written by a white man 500 years ago. Is it relevant today? You decide.
So I'm on the train to Bristol. I'm on my way to watch a play. It sounds a bit random, but I'll explain more. Somewhere a bit more quiet. Yes, it does sound a little random, but hear me out. I'd been invited by some friends who told me that they were reinterpreting Othello, and they insisted I came to see it. So, Othello is a story set in Venice about an interracial couple between this total babe called Desdemona and this big scary Moor and general called Othello. Moor was a derogatory term to refer to someone of northwestern African, Arab and Berber descent. A very shitty, loose term. Iago, a Venetian, Othello's boy, Moneyfingers, is literally the biggest hater in the world and draws a shady plot and convinces Othello Desdemona is doing the dirty with Othello's best friend, Cassio. Othello is driven to complete madness, ends up killing her in a psychotic jealous rage, only to kill himself when he finds out the heartbreaking truth. Cool, so I'm outside the theatre now. I'm actually meeting one of the actresses in the play for the first time. Here she is. Yeah. Growing up, very few things traumatized me more than Shakespeare. Macbeth, King Lear, Romeo and King Juliet. Don't get me wrong, I love literature, I love theatre, but constantly learning Shakespeare at school every single year reminded me of how different my own cultural heritage was. Here I was, in a room, in a class of brown and black people, being told by a white guy about another white guy that lived in the medieval ages and how he was one of the greatest writers to have ever lived. And I found it incredibly hard to relate. Then I get a phone call from a friend about a new Othello play that was happening in Bristol, and they'd invited me backstage. And anyway, I arrived backstage, and it was perhaps one of the weirdest things I had ever seen.
Bubbly bubbly. Bubbly bubbly bubbly.
So I'm now backstage of the play Othello. They're doing their warm-ups, which is basically the kind of, before they go on stage, they all have to warm up their bodies and their voices and get psychologically in the right place to perform. The reason they're doing it is to really zone in and tap into their body and to really bring out the certain emotions that they might need during the play. It's a little bit like you're in a mental institute, if you didn't know any better. But a part of me finds it a little bit funny. When you guys are taking the piss, or?
He's never done that before in his life.
So I'm just wondering backstage, I should probably find one of the actors to do like a serious interview. I think that's what I'm supposed to do in a video like this. Maybe. I should ask you some like serious questions, and this is what people do during interviews.
Yeah.
Do you work out?
No, not really. Not really, no.
Okay. Me neither.
Me neither.
How much of Othello do you see in yourself?
He's black,
Yeah.
and I'm also black.
Oh yeah. I didn't want to say that, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I did notice that.
You did notice?
Yeah.
Good, yes. So that's a big similarity we have.
Do you think that's why you got the role? Or? No, but in all seriousness, I could tell from just watching them rehearse that this play was totally different. I could see parts of myself in it. I felt as if my identity was being represented through it. Oh, you know, I just kind of thought it would be like another Shakespeare play that I could relate to very little. But there's one scene, and it happens to be the opening scene, and it completely took me by surprise. It was
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
نفسك إلى المهر الملعون في ظلال القرآن وعين
the scene, which was of a nikah, or a Muslim wedding, was taking something of my own cultural heritage and incorporating it into Shakespeare. It felt like two worlds of mine were colliding together.
قبلت نكاحا للمهر الملعون في ظلال القرآن وعين الرحمن وسنة رسول الله عليه السلام.
Knowing that Othello is secretly a Muslim, hiding it from his Venetian superiors, how does that begin to play with the way in which you're interpreting text? I mean, what's the process, active process you're going through as you're reading the text in terms of incorporating that?
And I mean, Shakespeare occupies such a prominence in our national identity and the work that's about us and how we see ourselves in art. Through your life has a huge stake in the state identity and yet never sees yourself represented in the state culture. I think that is a really dangerous thing.
Story that we tell about our nation. Who is our nation? Students who are from, say, Bangladeshi heritage or Pakistani heritage, North African heritage, who have grown up here and identify to some extent as British Muslim, can say this is part of our story. For me, that's the kind of great triumph, is to say there is a longer heritage here and let's not make it parochial.
If we're going down,
One of the most powerful moments for me was how much these two lovers represented two radically different worlds. East and West, white and black, Christian and Muslim. Yet at this moment, they represented the best of both, and their love for each other overcame any of those differences. In a world that pushes us apart, just as Iago does in the play, I found this relationship between Othello and Desdemona a ray of light.
Oh my days, I can't. Can you just do your own thing? Oh my god.
You don't own it.
Oh, but do your own thing, Oh my god.
And now we're here in London, in Wilton Music Hall, during the last stretch of the tour of the Othello production. The cast are in the other room now and they're rehearsing for tonight's show. Tonight is the opening night, and it's just all super exciting.
I've forgotten that it's 6:30. I almost.
We're doing the fight call.
I'll see if they're outside of a
Very exciting fight call.
Rise! I plead citizens! Hold percent! The Christian shame! Put by this pompous brawl!
No. What's happening?
So basically what's going on right now is that there's a bit of a squabbling going on. I'm not quite sure how it started, but this is what happens when you give drink to boys, you know?
The difficult reality about Othello from a person of colour's perspective is that Othello eventually becomes a villain and murders his innocent wife. Consumed by the worst kind of jealousy, misogyny and patriarchy, he turns on everyone around him. It was understood that he was returning to his old, savage, Moorish black roots, but what makes this interpretation of the play so powerful is that it is in fact a manipulative Venetian society embodied through Iago that tears him away from his Moorish, African and Islamic morality. It was his roots that made him the respected and loved man that he was. So after watching him self-destruct, it was painful for me to see, as it bore so much relevance to today, and how other young Muslim men today are similarly twisted and pushed to their limits by an equally alienating society.
For me, Othello is all about power. And when I think about Iago, what I think our activist friends would term white supremacy, structures of power which marginalize and otherize, that is the message of Othello is writ large. It's about fake news. It's about alternative fact. It's about the Muslim ban. And I think part of the fear that we feel today with the 45th President of the United States, the rise of right-wing political movements in Europe, but also intolerance in places that we come from. In a way, it mirrors what is happening in the play. The play is rife with intolerances. The play is rife with empire. The play is rife with violence. The play is rife with how all those big political, economic, and social ruptures play out in the lives of ordinary people.
I wanted to share my experience with you guys because I found it really touching that there were talented people out there seeking to reimagine Shakespeare in light of some of the biggest issues marginalized communities felt today. What their work did was provide a bridge between old and new British communities and establish a common medium for them to understand one another and what could be more important. This understanding isn't just achievable with theatre, but any creative process. And I left feeling incredibly inspired.